Market efficiency. Market efficiency is related to surplus. Total surplus measures society's economic well-being. Good multiple choice question. What does total surplus measure? It measures society's economic well-being. Total surplus is equal to the value is equal to value to buyers minus cost to sellers. Another way to say that is total surplus, and this is how we figure it mathematically, is the consumer surplus plus the producer surplus. These two things result in the same thing, the same value. Total surplus, consumer surplus plus producer surplus. Market efficiency. You reach market efficiency is when the allocation of it's the allocation of resources that maximizes total surplus. Allocation of resources that maximizes total surplus. So the market allocates enough painters to the want of the homeowners to have their house painted, so that that allocation is maximizing total surplus. Okay, so I'm going to do a graph here of free market equilibrium. Graph of free market equilibrium. Upward sloping supply curve, downward sloping demand curve. Okay, what do we know? Where is equilibrium? Quantity. How do we determine equilibrium quantity and price? Where supply and demand cross. So this would be Q star, and this would be P star for price. And then we know consumer surplus, is it above or below the price line? Consumer surplus. This triangle right here, what's this? Is that consumer surplus or producer surplus? Consumer, above the price, below the demand curve. Just look for the demand curve. The one that touching the demand curve is consumer surplus. So that's consumer surplus. Consumer surplus. And then below the price and above the supply curve is producer surplus. Okay, at this graph, total surplus is maximized because we're producing at equilibrium, or they're producing the equilibrium quantity, right? Everybody have it? You might need more time. All right, moving on. At equilibrium, total surplus is maximized and the market is efficient. This is a laissez-faire philosophy. Does anybody know what laissez-faire means? What?
Hands off.
Right, hands off. Leave the market alone. Let it run its course. No government interference, right? Just let the market forces have the downward and upward pressure on price until we have equilibrium. Okay? So the laissez-faire philosophy is total surplus will be maximized and the market is efficient if you just leave it alone. Adam Smith. Anybody heard of Adam Smith? U.S. history? Okay. He was a philosopher / economist at the beginning of the United States in the time of around the Revolutionary War. Adam Smith promoted this laissez-faire philosophy. And he said that the market will maximize total surplus on its own. He calls it the invisible hand. We have it? Raise your hand if you need more time. All right. So the market is efficient. When the market is efficient, it allocates output to buyers that value it most because they're willing to pay the market price. So it allocates output to buyers that value it the most, those that are willing to pay the price. And it allocates to sellers who can produce the good at the least cost. It allocates to sellers who can produce the good at the least cost when the market is efficient. Ever have it? All right. It maximizes producer surplus plus consumer surplus. And the greatest welfare in society is achieved when the market is efficient. Greatest welfare in society is achieved. This is a competitive ideal. Competitive ideal. The competitive markets, which we'll get into in a unit or two, competitive markets create efficiency. Competitive ideal. All right, everybody have it? Moving on. Equity. What does equity mean? There's several meanings for equity. What do you think equity means? Yes.
The amount of money you have in something.
Okay, yeah. So like equity, if you're paying off a house, if you buy a house for $100,000 and you've paid off $40,000 of your mortgage, that's your equity in the house. How much ownership you have in the house. You still owe $60,000, but you own $40,000. You know 40% of the house. Okay, that's one idea about equity. Any other ideas about equity? Does equity mean equal?
For me.
Okay. Economic definition, no, it does not. Okay. Equity does not mean equal. Equity is about fairness. Right? Equity is about fairness. Fairness of the distribution of well-being among members of society. So, when we talk about fairness, okay, you can say, you know, does a person that works 40 hours a week, you know, and there, if we were talking about equal, a person that works 40 hours a week would earn the same amount that a person that earns 20 hours a week, right? That's not really fair, is it? So he's going to be able to buy more stuff, more food, or more materials, or maybe go on a nicer vacation than the person that earns 20 hours a week. But, you know, it's fair that he probably earns more than the person that earns 20. They don't get the equal amount for less work. So that's one concept of fairness. A big issue right now in the presidential election is that they say the economy is rigged so that the people way up there at the top who own companies and have a lot of stocks, CEOs, investment bankers, those type of people that control a lot of money, they just get richer and richer and don't pay as much taxes as middle class people do, even though they're earning a lot more money, right? So that's maybe an issue where right now that they're talking about in the, all the candidates are saying we're going to make it have more equity. They're not going to say everybody's going to be as rich as the CEOs, but the CEOs are going to pay their fair share, right, of taxes and that type of thing. So there's all kinds of ways you can talk about fairness in the economy. So equity is an idea about fairness, about the distribution of well-being among members of society. When the economy is efficient, it is not always equitable. Okay? It is not always equitable. There's going to be some people that miss out. All right, any questions about equity? All right, so that's it on market efficiency.